I'm just looking at page 11 and page 12 of the advantages and disadvantages of the changes to Chartwell. It's very brief. I would expect a meeting like this to have a lot more meat in the proposals, and there's not much there. So could you go through the advantages and disadvantages of both options, please, with a bit more substance to it?
So looking at option one, maintain the current model. So the advantages are obviously hugely for the local inpatient presence, patient satisfaction, people looking after. We've talked a lot about families and working close to home, and we're also looking at the current inpatient regimens we have, which are known, are sort of discussed at a level 1 to 2 centre. The disadvantages, I think, are all listed there, and that was our starting point for particularly looking at national standards. We also wanted to look at, could we, and Julie's mentioned the 10-year plan, align with the idea that we could start off for more is in outpatient settings. So Rupin will have a lot of expertise in this, but about 85% now of most of the cares is actually being able to be given as outpatients, and we would our forecast is that we'd like to expand that as much as possible at the PRUH by expanding our outpatient services. In terms of, our staff, we are really keen to upskill our staff, really, and have more cross-site working. So we'd have staff with competencies in more sophisticated levels of giving chemotherapy. They would have more educational opportunities. They would, as a group, and they're a fantastic group, have more workforce stability. So I think it's got multiple components, not just of the patient's pathway, but of the staff pathway, of aligning with national guidance, and as Julie alluded to, an efficient use of all our resources. So I mean, that's the sort of backbone of the kind of model, the way we started looking at the model. In terms of the second component, which is our reconfiguration. So from the starting point of how can we make all of this better, how can we make our governance more robust, we obviously review national practice, NICE guidance, NHSE best practice. How do we offer, as we've talked so much about, and I won't go into it again, the best possible options for Bromley patients, like access to clinical trials, access to treatment. So I think Rupert will correct me if I'm wrong, but we have about 68 clinical trials running at Denmark Hill, and we're only able to run about 3 clinical trials at the PRUH for multiple different reasons. We want to also standardise care, and the reason that's important is because it allows you to review your outcomes and make sure that what you're offering is balanced, equal for all our residents, as Julie called it, the King's family. And what we are hoping also to do is increase access to 7-day treatment. So we're very much not a Monday to Friday service now. We have multiple treatments at Denmark Hill. We offer 7 days a week, and that fits in sometimes better with people's family lives, with their working lives. So that was a big feature for us as well. And bringing some more of our enhanced emergency and elective day case offerings to the PRUH. So our next phase, once we discuss with the families, is to create a sort of working group to think, what is the best possible use of the Chartwell space going forward for our patients in terms of day cases or chemotherapy units and that kind of thing. And then one of the things that all trusts are having to deal with is workforce. So what we don't want to do is find ourselves in a position where our workforce going forward for such a critical service is not robust. And that I include both in that consultant colleagues, junior doctor, resident doctor colleagues, and nursing. And it's about creating something that's going to go into our next 5-year strategy and will help us develop services into neighbourhoods, which is what we're being asked to do in the government's NHS 10-year plan. Now, the disadvantages, I think, we have completely heard so well here tonight is, there are distances to travel for people, there are family impacts. We have had patients obviously get in touch through the Chartwell Cancer Trust, through listening to people like Mr. Venner. So that is part of what we will do when we reach out to families as part of the next phase. So I think it's about a starting point. I mean, we're, not to use a cliche, but we're on a journey here. We have to get this right in terms of working across our sites, working on our day surgery, our sort of day case provision, and then also offering the best possible inpatient treatment. So that's the bulk of our plan, but we have a lot more work to do, to your point about detail. Thank you.
Wondering if you could provide where it says what options we have, and then you've put the advantages, disadvantages, and then the option 2. Could you actually provide some data with that instead of so on disadvantages example in option 1, you've put difficulty of staff to maintain systematic anti-cancer therapy competencies. Why is that? We want to know how and why, so we all have a full picture of this rather than just highlights. We don't want highlights for something that's so important. We want the full facts as well. Thank you.
I can maybe add to that, Councillor Turrell. Yeah, I mean, your point is well made. We can include more data on that, and part of the data that we have is on the number of chemotherapy cycles administered on site, and for the national standards, there needs to be a certain amount of chemo that is administered to ensure staff competency and nursing competency, and the numbers are low. So I think that is part of our issue about supporting staff and supporting staff resilience. So we do have that.